So I do apologize as this will be in English. It was per Gabriel's instructions, actually. Right, so if you'll permit me, I wrote it down just so that I don't actually forget anything. So without further ado, I agreed to speak on this book here with you today under the premise of borrowing my supervisor's book for free. After all, I am a student. I think the logic of that is self-evident. Not only will I get to read a book that I did not have to buy, I also have a unique opportunity to get to know my supervisor better. That's not a deal one passes on, so I said yes. Little did I know what I was getting myself into. To explain my impressions from the book, I must first tell you a little bit about myself and where I come from, similarly to how my supervisor starts his book. As mentioned before, I did my undergraduate in psychology at the University of Warwick in the UK. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved it so much that in my final year, I agreed to take on an independent research project, which ultimately decided my lingering doubts on which path to take from here. Whether to go into clinical psychology and become the therapist I always saw myself as, or to wander into the terrifying unknown territory of pursuing a career in academia. As you could have guessed from the fact that I'm standing here in front of you today, I decided for the latter. I continued my studies in the UK with a master's in psychological research, a course my professors aptly called a junior PhD. I did not know the extent of impossible I would have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. I had to learn how to code, how to transform and analyze data, a term my supervisor here despises, how to interpret t-tests, p-values, regressions, and ANOVAs. I mastered software, I mastered statistics, I mastered data. And you know what? I felt pretty good about myself. Useful skills, I thought. Now I'm certainly equipped to handle anything put in front of me. Well, up until I opened this book. As you may know, my supervisor comes from the complete opposite of the quantitative-qualitative spectrum. He's an expert on IPA, the interpretative phenomenological approach, a term I had to Google, because I thought IPA meant a type of beer. So on one hand, we have me, the quantitative, data-oriented, positivist-raised analyst. And on the other, we have a qualitative veteran with decades-long experience with research in the Slovak context, who looked at the culture of positivism within psychology and decided to go the other way. So here I am, posed with the question, who's right? I have often heard the saying, the average person does not exist, referring to the made-up mean of different characteristics we use when we say things like, the average Slovak is female, about 173.5 centimeters tall, and has voted for Olano in the last elections. I can see how the notion of a unitary, rational subject seems a bit arbitrary here. So what do we have to learn from looking at humans from within, rather than a data point on a chart? Our obsession as psychologists to measure and quantify comes, in my opinion, from a deep-seated insecurity about the legitimacy of our field. A field whose legitimacy has been questioned since its very birth. I too admit, I get scared sometimes. That what I do is not valid, that somehow psychology is less real than the hard sciences. But at the end of the day, psychology is the key to unlocking human experience. And that is exactly the point Gabriel makes in his book. Human subjectivity is what we've overlooked. Human subjectivity is what we've been missing. Now, to answer the important question, I honestly don't know who's right. I don't know which school of thought to pledge myself to. But I recognize the new path Gabriel has presented, and I'm very curious what will happen if I follow. Thank you for lending me the book.